Hello guys and welcome back to our channel. So today we're going to be talking about margins. I know last video it got cut off. It's due to it's due to I'm really sorry. It's due to the timings. Like we want to maintain some specific time of learning so that we can complete it like 20 minutes or 25. Okay, that's the bare maximum I want my videos to be. So that's what. So let's get started. So yeah, so last video I do not know whether we saw these, but yeah, so we'll just see it once more. So margin means it's the distance between elements border and the surrounding elements. So you will know much better about margin when we have many elements to do so. So let's try it. Let's try it. Yeah, you can see over here that we got margin over here 70 pixels, and you can see without margin how it's gonna look. I'm gonna take this margin and we're gonna run. Yeah, you can see over here that the space over here, it's not there. Now when I put the margin, oh, it's the link. When I put the margin back in and then run it, you can see over here the space, the amount of space you get between the CSS margin and the div tag. Okay, so yeah, it's used to create a space. Okay, space around elements. You can see over here this element, this one, this paragraph. You can see how much space they have in between them. It's used to create a space between your elements. So you can see over here that in this website, you can see that this is a paragraph element and this is a heading element, and you can see the space that they have, right? So that's what it is. Okay, so we have sides. So we have margin top, right, bottom, and left. And all the margin properties can have the following values like auto, length, percentage, and inherit. Inherit, we will see it when we come to inheritance. So for now, let's just go with auto, length, and percentage. Negative values are also allowed here. Okay, see over here we got different margins for all four sides of the paragraph element. Before that, auto means the browser will calculate the margin for you. The length specifies a margin pixel, pt, centimeters. So you see here that we're given here pixels. Percentage specifies a margin in percentage of the width of the containing element. Okay, so we'll see this. So here we go. We got a div. We got the margin top and margin bottom, margin right, margin left, and background color. Okay, to see the content of the width. So you can see here that you got here the content. So this is the content. The width element has a top margin, the right margin, bottom margin, and the left margin. See over here, the top margin is 100 pixels. It's 100 pixel, and the right is 150, and the bottom is 100 pixel, and the left is 80 pixels. Right. So this shorthand property, you do have shorthand property for margin. So the first value, it's going to be a top. It's very similar to border. So if you're well known with the border, then this is very easy. Top, and then you got right, you got the bottom, you got the left over here. So top, right, bottom, and left. Okay, so top, leave something, bottom, right, leave it, left. Okay, so you can use the shorthand property for the margin. You can see over here that we are choosing to do with the shorthand property. And also a HR tag will provide a line. You can see over here a horizontal line over here. Oh, sorry, a line over here. So this is with HR. Okay, so now let's see some examples of these. The auto value. Yeah, you can also use one value, two values, and three values. And if you already saw the border video, these are covered up there. Like top is 25, right and left. We'll take the center value. This value is for the bottom. When you have two values, the first one is for top and bottom, and the second one is for right and left. So you can all try these in the website or in an editor, whatever you got. So the auto value. Now, Now the auto value is you can set the margin property to auto to horizontally center the elements within its container. The element will then take up the specified width and the remaining space will be split equally between the left and the right margin. We'll try it to see actually how it looks. Okay, I'm sharing this tab over here. So you can see over here we're trying to use width and we're trying to use margin auto and bar 1 pixels and solid red. Okay. So this has margin auto, so it's horizontally centered. Okay, so I'm gonna try removing this margin and see where it is without the margin auto. So let's run the program, and you can see over here that it's right here with no space before it. So now let me just go ahead and put it back. So you can set the margin property to auto, so horizontally center the elements within its container. So within the container, it does that. Okay. Let me run the program. And you can see over here that within the container, it does that. The element will then take up the specified width and the remaining space will be split equally between the left and the right margin. Okay. So I'm going to take this width off. Oh, I'm going to take this width off. And after we take this width, let's see what happens. Oh, you see that? You see that? You see that? Oh gosh. Wow. Let me explain this a lot clearer. So before we get onto that concept, let's just keep those aside. There's no margins, nothing. Just look at the screen over here. I've created two divs. Let me show you. So over here, I've created two divs. Div that has a value 1 and div has some content div 2. Okay? And you can see over here, I just gave a border so you can have a clear look on how it's going to look. And you can see over here that this is how currently the two divs are. You can see even the content is very small. It's just a number. It takes up the entire width of the screen. As we are seeing it in the online compiler, don't get too confused. Just take this as your entire screen, the result page. And you can see over here, 1 and 2 takes up the entire width of the screen. The reason is they are block elements. That's why they take up the entire width of the screen. Now, what we're trying to do over here is we're trying to put a margin for this. So let me try to put a margin for this. Let me go here and I'm going to create a margin for them. So I'm going to create a very common margin between them so that they are applied to everywhere. They are applied to their top, to their bottom, to their left, to their right, and top, bottom, yeah, left and right. So you can see over here that we got the top, the bottom, and the left and the right as well. Okay, so that's how margins work. So you can see over here that they look very much centered. When I say yeah, they look centered because they got their margins all good. They got their margins good. So that's why they look like they are being centered. See, not too much, but at least they look like a pretty good one, like the centered ones. Now what we're going to do here is without having a value, I'm going to set to auto and I'm going to show you what it actually does. When I set to auto, it goes back to the normal margin that we saw earlier. Why is that so? There seems to be no margin, even a teeny bit of margin between these two elements. And why is that? That is very interesting, right? All right. So the reason is that it's the browser will decide the margin. Okay. So the browser has to define the margin. But over here, the div is getting the entire space. The div is taking up the whole width of the page. Okay. There is no space left. Okay. So how this browser can assign margin for these? How they can assign the margin for these? That's why in the previous code you have seen width being used. So let me give 300 pixels of width, and you can see over here the margin is being applied automatically, auto margin, right? So margin auto does not work for top and bottom. All right. Okay. The margin auto will actually work for left and right. Okay. So let me just share with you. Let me remove this one and then run the program. And you can see over here that they're pretty much at the top. I'll also remove the extra margins, like the default margins that you get, so that you can have a clear view of how it looks. So I'm going to have the margins being removed right now so that you can have a very clear look. Okay, so you can see over here that they don't really have the top margin. And also I'll show you they do not have the bottom as well. So I'm going to put an element for you. I will hit down the div so you can actually see they don't have a bottom margin as well. So let me give 3. Now let me run it. And you see over here that you don't really have any space between these two elements. Okay. So with that being said, so what does width 300 pixels will do for you? So I will just take this margin off for now and just have this width 300 pixels. So you can see over here, with 300 pixels actually make your div smaller, right? Because that's what div is for. When you set a width for it, it's that much width it's going to take from the whole browser space. So when I specify margin auto, it's going to assign me margin, okay? It's going to assign me a margin by itself for the left and the right, okay? So you have to be very clear with it that you'll have, if you're using a width for a div or any block elements and you want to center that div, you want to keep the margin, you want to make the browser do it for you, then you're going to set it to auto, set margin to auto. Okay, so and then you just give that. Okay, so this is only for horizontal and not vertical. Okay, all right, I hope that was very clear. Now let's go over here. Inherit value. You can set the margin property to inherit to let the margin be inherited from the parent element. What is parent element? Let's have a look. This example lets the left margin of the P clause, this is a paragraph clause, element be inherited from a parent element. Let's try it. All right. You can see over here that we have a paragraph inside the div class. I'll just remove all of these so we just concentrate on what is needed. Alright, so you can see over here we have a div element, and inside the div we have a paragraph tag which says this paragraph has an inherited left margin from the div element. So over here in the div tag we have given margin left to 100 pixels, and you can see the difference over here. That it come up 100 pixels space in the left side. You can see there's a 100 pixel space on the left side. Now you want the paragraph to have the same 100 pixels. Oh, sorry. To this and to this. So that looks pretty same. So how did the paragraph also get the same margin from the parent class? This is the div class. It got it because we have used inherit. Similar to auto, you just give the word inherit, and it will inherit from its parent element of whatever margin is there. Let's try something different. I'm going to give inherit, and let's see what it does. You can see over here that we still got a space over here. So remember that by default, we have margin 8 pixels. So to understand the inheritance very clearly, the div tag parent of div tag is the body tag. The body tag is the parent of the div tag, and the div tag is the parent element of the paragraph tag. Okay? Because you can see that inside the body tag, we have the div class. See, div tag. And inside the div tag, we have the paragraph tag. Alright. So we're asking drag and drop the correct values to set the margin. 10 pixels for top, 20 pixels for the right, 30 pixels for the bottom, and 40 pixels for the left. Let's go for the next topic over here, which is margin collapse. Margin collapse is when two margins collapse into a single margin. Top and bottom margins of elements are sometimes collapsed into a single margin that is equal to the largest of the two margins. The margin collapse only happens with the top and bottom margins and not the left and right. In the following example, the H1 element has a bottom margin of 50 pixels, and the H2 element has a top margin of 20 pixels. So the vertical margin between the H1 and the H2 would be a 70 pixel. But due to the collapse, the actual margin ends up being 50. So let's try it out. So over here, we have set the margin bottom for the first element to be 50, and the margin top of the second element to be 20 pixels. In this example, you can see that what you might think, the between two elements will have somewhat 70 pixels, maybe, but the truth is no, they have only 50 pixels. Let's have a look. To get a more better understanding, I'm going to have another element at the bottom. Okay, so let's have a H3 tag, and we're going to write on the third element. Maybe we have fourth element. I guess this is the fourth, but let's just have it. So right now I'm going to style the H3 to be a bit different. So H2 has a margin top. So you wouldn't have a collapse over here because I'm going to set it to margin top as well, not bottom. Or Yeah, margin top. And as we didn't set any margin bottom for H2, we are good to set up for this one. So we're gonna have 50 pixels so that we can see whether they look very similar. So let's draw a line and let's understand it. So over here you can see that this is the distance between the margin collapse and heading 2, and this is the distance. So let's have 70 pixels and let's see how they look. So I'm gonna go ahead and have another one. So let's have H4. Inside H4, we're gonna have it margin not bottom, but it's top. The reason it wouldn't collapse. So we're gonna have it 70 pixels to have a better look on how it's gonna look. So I'm gonna write H4, H4, and I'm gonna close this H4. I am the fourth element. Let's run it. And okay, what did we have? I guess we had 50 pixels. Oh, 70 pixels. Okay. Yeah, you can see there is a big difference between them. Like, let me show you. The difference is notable when I draw. I'm gonna draw, so the difference is notable. Oh, I drawn too much. Oh, let me draw again. Oh, stop. Oh gosh. Like, I'm a bit struggling over here because you see the drawing pad is actually over here and I couldn't see where to start. Like it's hard for me to see like where to start, so let me just scroll it up. Yo, it's hard for me to see where it is. Okay. Okay. This to this. Okay. Okay, I guess now there's a pretty much. Okay, let's just look at all of the lines that I've drawn. Okay. Oh no, there's not a big difference over here. The lines are drawn, like this one, and then this one. But you can see over here that it's pretty big. It's not. It won't give a big difference, but I understand that you know that this H1 and H2, the H1 and H2 between them would be a 50 pixels, not 70, but a 50 pixel distance. And the H3, H2 and H3, we would have 50 pixels, okay? And between H3 and H4, we would have 70 pixels, all right? All right. So let's go on further. In the following, we got here P element that has a margin top 30 and a bottom 30. So the vertical margin between P elements should have been 60, but however, due to the margin collapse, the actual is being 30. Let's have a look. Yeah, so we got two paragraphs, and this one also has a top 30 pixel and a bottom 30 pixel. So if you're to imagine this one, this one would be just 30 pixels or it'd be 60. See, the bottom tag of this one is 30, and the top of this one is also 30. They're both the same, so they just, collapse to 30. They won't be 60 pixels. Okay. Okay, what happens when the top margin of one element and the bottom of another margin overlap? They don't add. No margins are still applied. The larger margin value is used. Okay, I guess it might be good time to close it. But yeah, padding we'll look at tomorrow, and then we'll look at height and width, and then the box model and outlines, and we will make something on our own with these. All right. So yeah, thank you for watching.